Hello everyone, my name is Aaron, and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome to another episode, and in today's episode, we're going to be looking over my mock draft for this year's NFL Draft. We're going to go through just the first round. I'm going to briefly go over each pick and why I chose the position, and I'm basing it off of team need and basically what I actually want to see each team get. And I have an opinion for each and every single team, even the ones I don't like. I want to see certain teams improve in areas. I think that other teams should hold off in other areas, and that's how I'm going to be basing my draft. So I hope you guys are excited for that. Let's waste no time. Let's get into it. With the first overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback from Indiana. So it's no question that this is the route the Raiders are going to go. I'd be shocked if they went any other route. But the reason why I want to talk about this just a little bit more is because getting Kirk Cousins shows that the Raiders are actually going about this the smart way. Because right now, you have a great running back core and a really good tight end core, not a good wide receiver core whatsoever. And I don't believe you should start Fernando Mendoza right off the bat. Let him sit a year, learn the whole scheme of the offense behind Kirk Cousins, and then you continue to build on that wide receiver core so that in the next season, when he does make a start, he'll have all the pieces and all the experience he needs. This was smart by the Raiders, and it's good for a first-time head coach, and I like that they are going this route. And I'm very excited to see Mendoza in the NFL as well. And I think he'll be fine with the Raiders. With the second overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Arvell Reese, linebacker from Ohio State. Most reports have David Bailey going to the Jets than Arvell Reese, but the reason why I chose Reese is because the Jets need to find some identity. Even though they have a lot of picks, I want to get that super established star player on the defensive side. And while David Bailey's strictly defensive end, you have someone like Reese who's linebacker and defensive end, and you can do more around that. And with another pick in this first round, you could really start to build what should be the Jets' strong suit this next season, their defense under Aaron Glenn. And I want to see playmakers who are going to stand out right off the bat so that you can really focus on working that defense and then shift your attention over to the quarterback position and all the offense, which is, even though there's some playmakers, it is really, really thin. And I just don't think the Jets are going to be winning this year or maybe even next season, but start building in that direction slowly. Don't try to rush and get a piece that, I don't know, I don't think is going to work out for you. I don't know if Bailey's going to be the best option for the Jets. I think he'll be a great option for some team, but I think New York would do better to get Arvell Reese. With the third overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select David Bailey, defensive end from Texas Tech. So then afterwards, I have David Bailey going to Arizona, and Arizona, like New York, they are not going to be winning anytime soon. I don't think they have the pieces to do it, and they're not developed well enough. But if there's any spot that I think is going to be a bright spot, it'd be the defensive side of the ball, which they should work on first. Getting David Bailey to go with that defense, and you're going to continue to build in the linebacker core in later rounds and potentially to build more in the defensive line. Your secondary, I think, needs some help, but it's closer to being okay than all the rest of the positions. David Bailey's going to fix a big issue with the Cardinals on the defensive line, so I think that would be a suitable position for him. With the fourth overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. At this point, it's going to be a toss-up between Tennessee, New York, and Washington on who's going to get Jeremiah Love. And if I'm Tennessee, I'm not wasting any time. to put potentially the best running back in a long while to come out of the draft. I mean, Bijan's probably the best in the last few years, but I think he's going to be close to the level as Bijan Robinson is. To have him to go along with Cam Ward, who's your up-and-coming quarterback, is a big deal, and I want to see them build around Cam Ward right now. The wide receiver core is going to need some help, but they have some veterans that are going to be fine. I think the running game is not doing very well, and Jeremiah Love is more closer to a bell cow back than the other two running backs they have. So that's why I would go running back for Tennessee, even though they have a lot of places they need to fill. With the 5th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. Caleb Downs could go a little bit lower in this draft, but if I'm New York, probably not going to get Jeremiah Love, and I would love to see them build heavily on that defense because they have some good spots on offense. I think they can be content for this season and continue to build later in the draft or in the next draft, but the defense, I really want to see them get solid because they have one of the better pass rushers in Brian Burns, and if they're able to keep Dexter Lawrence, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but if they were to go along with already a secondary that's starting to get up there, the Giants defense could see a ginormous leap forward, and I want to see it more in their secondary than anywhere else because up front I actually love the linebacker core and I love that defensive line. The secondary I think could use a touch-up. With the 6th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Carnell Tate, wide receiver from Ohio State. Dante DeMora in my shorts asked if Jerry Jeudy has any juice left or will it be a rookie like Fannin Bond or Tillman catching passes. And in my mind, before I read that question, I said neither, because I want the Browns to get Carnell Tate. I think Carnell Tate is going to be the lead wide receiver for a Browns offense that definitely needs to have a touch-up because right now that Browns offense is basically non-existent. They have a good quarterback, and whether they go with Shador or Deshaun Watson, their running back core is fine. Their wide receiver core is a joke. Their tight end core is young, and their offensive line needs a lot of help. The defense, on the other hand, does not need much help. So I would stray away from working on the defense and specifically get to working on that offense. And the first place I would go is getting one of those quarterbacks a solid number one. And I think Carnell Tate is that number one. With the 7th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Ruben Bain Jr., defensive end from Miami. There's a chance he might fall because of the recent allegations, but if I'm Washington, I'm looking at improving the defense. Even though you had a lot of problems on offense, most of them were because of injury. That defense is just not cutting it. They got to get something going. That defense cannot, not under Dan Quinn at all. They should be doing a lot better on defense, and they can with Ruben Bain, who is a solid pass rusher. And I cannot wait to see if Washington will go that route, because if they do, the defensive line is going to take an immediate upgrade, another step. And I want to see Washington's defense compete, especially since that NFC Championship game a couple years ago. They are going to need some help on the defensive side of the ball. With the 8th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Mansour Dulain, cornerback from LSU. For me, it's either Dulain or I'm going with Mekhi Lemons for the New Orleans Saints because one of those two positions needs to get filled up. But right now, I'm looking at Tyler Shuck. I think he's going to be the future for New Orleans, but I would love to see the Saints tap a little bit more into free agency to fix their wide receiver core than go after a younger guy because Chris Olave, to me, yeah, he had a good season. He was top 10 in my fantasy league, but I also don't think he's going to be a solid number one option. I'd like to see a veteran right behind him instead of a rookie. So that's why I'm going to the defensive side of the ball, and to get the best cornerback, much more of a lockdown defender and a ball hawk. I would love to see New Orleans adopt that, since that's kind of how I remember New Orleans over the years, as having a pretty good secondary, or at least somebody with an incredible, or at least a secondary with someone extremely special, like a Tracy Porter. I would love to see that. And that's, I mean, LSU to New Orleans, I'd like that. With the 9th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Francis Maui Noah, offensive tackle from Miami. I mean, this is the old thing with the Chiefs. They definitely need to have an offensive tackle. They have to be able to protect Patrick Mahomes at all costs on the edges. That's where they struggle with the most. They got rid of Jawan Taylor, which I thought was a good move. And now you bring in another offensive tackle, because last season they got themselves an offensive tackle, which I thought was an incredible move. It's the one I would have wanted for them. And this is another one. And I believe that Maui Noah would serve a great purpose on the opposite end. I want to see the Chiefs build that offensive line. You can then go look at tight end and all that stuff, or go look at the defensive side, but first fix the main issue, which is the offensive line, and then the rest will take care of itself. With the 10th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State. If the Bengals aren't thinking defense in this draft, then I don't know what they're doing. Obviously, they have the offensive power if Joe Burrow can stay healthy. It's always that defense that betrays them in the end. They don't have a solid defensive player now that Trey Hendrickson is gone, so you gotta get yourself another good one. And Sonny Styles, Ohio State, a linebacker that I think would do extremely well, not only in the pass rush, in multiple schemes, but also defending running backs on the routes, doing all of that stuff. I think that Cincinnati really needs to lean onto something special on defense, because right now they don't have anything that's worth looking at. With the 11th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Makai Lemon, wide receiver from USC. Miami has to build in multiple positions. They're not a team that is about to win anytime soon. So whatever that future quarterback is going to be, I want to see a lot built around him. This is really building around the future per se. And let's start with getting an actually good wide receiver, which they don't have one. Malik Washington is their best, and while he's good as a special team returnsman, as a number one, that should not be the case. And if you're not going to go into free agency, then you got to pick a wide receiver at this spot. With the 12th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, my Dallas Cowboys select Jermod McCoy, cornerback from Tennessee. Similar to the Bengals, the Cowboys have to capitalize on working on their defense. The offense, yeah, there's some holes on the offensive line. The defense was the biggest issue, especially the secondary. I did not like what I saw last. To be fair, Jermod McCoy was out last season with an ACL injury, but the fact he's still rated this highly is a good sign. We have to get something in that secondary. Deron Bland is by himself. He needs to get some more help, and I don't know if Ravel is going to step up this year. I would like to see him more in a third cornerback situation, but Jermod McCoy could be a number one, not right off the bat, but eventually. With the 13th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Spencer Fano, offensive tackle from Utah. Honestly, any pick for the Rams is greed, which I don't see why it wouldn't be. The Rams really need nothing. So with all of that said, I would go with the place that they could use some help, which is the offensive line. And to get someone like Spencer Fano, who, Utah has 2 offensive tackle who are probably going to go in the first round. To get that to go along with your high-powered offense, more protection, that works extremely well in the pursuit of having a dominant offense for another year in a row. They don't need to go get a weapon. There's no worries there. I just think that they need to make sure that Stafford is well protected for this next season. With the 14th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver from Arizona State. On some glances, I would go defense for Baltimore because Baltimore's defense was a horror show last season, but I'm also sitting there just like, Zay Flowers and Derrick Henry, you lost Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews is getting old. There needs to be another weapon for Lamar Jackson, and Jordan Tyson is right there. And he's the other wide receiver who I would say is a top half of the first round. And I think that they need him a lot more than they just need defense. They need to get healthy on defense. They have an extremely good secondary, and then the rest of the draft could be building depth on the linebacker and defensive line core. But right now, I want to see another weapon around Lamar Jackson. With the 15th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Oliva Vega Ioane, offensive guard from Penn State. After figuring out how to pronounce this guy's name for a good 30 minutes, what I did find is an extremely aggressive offensive guard that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need because that offensive line was not doing extremely well, especially in the interior. And you have Bucky Irving, who is one of the most explosive backs in the NFL. If you're going to have any success on offense and consistent success, it's going to be in the run game, and you got to fix up that offensive line. I know injuries riddled it, but this is the only offensive guard who's going to go in the first round. And this is the position that you get them and really build around what could be your offensive identity, which could be run first for the most part, and then you can work off the back heel of Baker Mayfield. But right now, interior defense, something the Buccaneers need, I think, more than any other team at this position. The New York Jets have traded the 16th overall pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. With the 16th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Ty Simpson, quarterback from Alabama. So the angle here is that the Jets would be reaching if they went to go after Ty Simpson, and I also think that there's not a good defensive player at this position in the draft for the Jets to get. So I'm asking them to kind of keep doing what they were doing and get more picks. I mean, they can really work on building on that, and they can draft down, allow the Steelers, who I think will do better with Ty Simpson, to go up, move up into that position, get their guy, and really develop on him. I think they have the tools better to develop Ty Simpson than the Jets do. I think the Jets would hurt him a lot. And I think what the Jets need to really focus on is just building as much leverage in the draft as you can, while also building on that defense. I think that would be big time for New York. And for Pittsburgh, the pick is simple. This could be your future. You got to develop him. You have the tools to develop him better than the Cardinals or better than the Jets. So I would take your guy right now, because I don't know if you're going to be in that position next year to get a better quarterback in the draft. So I would shoot here. With the 17th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle from Georgia. Right now, the Lions are losing a lot on that offensive line, and while I want them to kind of work on the defense, especially up front to help Aiden Hutchinson, I cannot ignore the fact that you're having one of the best running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs, and the offensive line has been losing some pieces. So getting an offensive tackle like Monroe Freeling, who I think at this point is the best offensive tackle up then, I think that getting him would be a massive pick. So I would say work on improving the offense, especially in the pass game, and with the arguably the best running back in the NFL. That's a good pick. I think it's a solid one for what they want to do. With the 18th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon. After looking at the Vikings roster and not seeing Harrison Smith there, which I thought was kind of surprising, I guess I just wasn't paying attention to that roster, I think that after seeing Kyler Murray go to Minnesota, yeah, the safety position is a spot I want to see them improve because they are one of the best teams in the secondary, and I don't want to see that production go down now that they're trying to find something new on offense to work with. So Dylan Thieneman is more or less just an insurance pick so that the secondary can continue to do extremely well, because I think putting him in there is still going to be extremely strong for what Minnesota wants to do. This is more just a replacement pick, and that's fine. The defense should continue to strive, especially in that secondary. With the 19th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Kenyon Sadiq, tight end from Oregon. Well, now you know that you can build around Bryce Young, and you got to the playoffs in his third year. Right now, I look at all the weapons. McMillan is still a work in progress. They could use a running back, but they're not going to find one that is not going to be a reach pick at this position. And the best playmaker at this current spot is Kenyon Sadiq of Oregon. And the tight end room can definitely use an improvement and get Bryce Young his better security blanket. I think that would be a smart pick. The defense has been working extremely hard over the offseason. I like that. And the offensive line could be another place to look at if you're Carolina, but right now I would just love to build around Bryce Young if I'm the Panthers. With the 20th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, my Dallas Cowboys select Keldrick Falk, defensive end from Auburn. Again, I want Dallas to go defense, and now I shift my attention to the defensive line to help the secondary. And to have Keldrick Falk on an opposite side of Quinnen Williams while having a really good defensive tackle position, I want to see major improvement on that line and in the secondary. If there's any strong part of the defense, I actually like the linebacker core a lot. So I would work on secondary and the defensive line heavily. So you got a high pick in Jermod McCoy, another high pick in Keldrick Falk that starts off both of those rebuilding processes. With the 21st overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select CJ Allen, linebacker from Georgia. So I know that I'm going double linebacker here for the Jets, but I just cannot help but, maybe it's just a Georgia thing, but when there's a Georgia Bulldog there, I really want to pick him. And that's just a testament to that defensive scheme over these last 10 years for Georgia. And CJ Allen at the linebacker core to go along with Arvil Reese, and to have Reese be both edge and linebacker, I can already imagine how the Jets can draw up so many defensive schemes from those two players alone. And that's something that I really hope New York takes advantage of, to really build on that defense and to get the Jets back into a situation they were in a couple years ago for offense, but an extremely great defense. With the 22nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Caden McDonald, defensive tackle from Ohio State. I want to go offensive line for the Chargers, but it's going to be a reach pick to get a center or a guard, and they don't really need tackles. They just need them to stay healthy. So now I want to switch over to the defense. The defense is already extremely well off, but I want to see them do well on the defensive line because I don't know how long Khalil Mack's going to stay there and be the anchor for that defense. So I would like to see someone else, and Caden McDonald at this position as a defensive tackle for the Chargers scheme is something I think the Chargers defense would take a big leap forward drafting him instead of any other defensive player. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I kind of like that fit a lot. With the 23rd overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle from Utah. The Eagles really don't have to worry about the defense too harshly. The offensive problems more or less comes between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts for the most part. But if you're going to see success on the offense, it's going to be most likely through the run game. And if there was any hole that Philly had, it's the offensive line. The offensive line was slowly starting to deteriorate. The push still succeeded, but not as much as it used to. And Saquon Barkley took a step down from an incredibly great year. So the offensive line needs some work. This is where Caleb Lomu comes in to work on the tackle position and to get that running game back into working order. If Philly is going to succeed, it's not going to be because of the pass. They need to start off with the run and be strong in the run game. And they have the running back to do it. They just need to make sure they have the offensive line to do it. With the 24th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Caden Proctor, offensive tackle from Alabama. Again, with the Browns sticking directly with the offense, this is now where I would build the offensive line because now you have your weapon, you have your running back, you have your quarterback. Let's start to work on the offensive line. And Caden Proctor would be a big move for Cleveland, and even Mel Kiper in one of his recent mock drafts has Caden Proctor going a little bit earlier in the draft, but still to the Browns. So I think that this is going to make sense. I don't know if he should go super early. I think that'd be a reach pick, but for the most part, the Browns need to work on that offensive line heavily after they get a weapon. With the 25th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Peter Woods, defensive tackle from Clemson. So the Bears took a major leap forward on offense, and I actually love to see what Caleb Williams was able to do last season. But one place I was kind of dissatisfied was defensive efficiency. I think that the Bears did poorly for what they were supposed to do. Because I saw that early part of Caleb's rookie season, I thought the defense was solid, and then of course it unraveled. So what do I want to see? I want to see the Bears do better in efficiency, and I just cannot help but think that passing up on Peter Woods would be a mistake for Chicago. He's, I think, the best defender at this point, either him or Akeem Mesidor, but I think they're fine on the edge position. They can really use interior tackling, and I would love that to see Peter Woods go to Chicago and really help that defense get out of the low end of efficiency. With the 26th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver from Indiana. Let's be honest, I don't know if this is the biggest need for the Bills, but I believe that if Omar Cooper does not go to Buffalo, he will be drafted by Kansas City. And if you're the Bills, knowing that Kansas City has taken some very important picks from you over the years, this would just be extremely funny to see this guy go to Buffalo. But on the real side, the window is not going to be open for long for Buffalo. They have to do something. And for the Bills, they need to put more weapons around Josh Allen, and Amari Cooper being the number 2 behind DJ Moore and having Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman, that's better than what they had last season. You got to help Josh out a little bit. With the 27th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Akeem Mesidor, defensive end from Miami. Honestly, this feels like a crime that Mesidor drops this far, but I think it's going to be the one player who does end up dropping very far. And if he does, and San Francisco gets him, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people. I believe San Francisco, if he's still there, they will move on from trying to go after the offensive tackle position and work to get that defense in working order. Because let's be honest, that defense looked horrible towards the back end of last season, and they could use some help. Obviously, injuries played a massive role, but I want to see more help up front with Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I think that getting Mesidor to go up front, that's going to be a tough defense to stop if San Francisco can get their hands on him. With the 28th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Blake Miller, offensive tackle from Clemson. What does Houston have to improve on defense? They really have nothing to improve because their defense was extremely solid. Them in Seattle had incredible years last season. But that offensive line and CJ Stroud's protection, that was a horrible low point for Houston. And they have the weapons. There's no questions there. They just got David Montgomery. They don't need weapons. If anything, I wouldn't mind Houston going strictly offensive line, but we know they're not going to do that. But they do need to establish something at the tackle position. It is weak, and they need to do something now. And I believe that there's some offensive tackles. I would go with Blake Miller on this one. With the 29th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Avion Terrell, cornerback from Clemson. A lot of Clemson guys going in these most recent picks, but I gotta tell you, Avion Terrell being there for Kansas City is a really good spot for him to be there. Because now that Kansas City has moved on from McDuffie, the secondary does need some work, and the cornerback core does need someone to step in. And luckily, they got 2 picks. They fixed the offensive line, the tackle position with their first pick. They can start to work back on that secondary and their second pick. Right now, if that happens, I think the Chiefs had a very solid first round. With the 30th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Colton Hood, cornerback from Tennessee. And then looking at Miami getting a second pick as well, you can go anywhere. The Dolphins need to improve in so many positions. I just wouldn't go after a quarterback. That's all. I think that if you're going to wait for the future, just build in multiple other positions and see some bright spots on that Miami team. So when it's time for them to get a quarterback, they have a team that he's going to fit in very well with. And that's my hope for Miami. With the 31st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select KC Concepcion, wide receiver from Texas A&M. I'm kind of surprised New England has barely dipped their toes into free agency to get a wide receiver. They only got Romeo Doubs, which was a good pickup, but they could use more. And maybe here they get AJ Brown and Philly jumps in, I don't know. But if they don't, then you go after a wide receiver, and there's a few that you could go with. Denzel Boston is one. But I think KC, I've seen a little bit of him last season, and to have him on that roster to go behind Romeo Doubs, I think that they are going to see a lot of success, not only in normal offense, but I would love to see him in the special teams as well. That could fix a lot of problems for New England. They just need to continue to build around Drake May. They were just in the Super Bowl, so if they were just in the Super Bowl and you know that your second-year quarterback is potentially going to be the future, build while he's still on that rookie contract. And with the 32nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks select Brandon Seiss, cornerback from South Carolina. Seattle's extremely limited, and the other pick that could go at this spot is Darian Price for Seattle, but I think that I want to see just a busted secondary for Seattle to be extremely strong in that entire position, and this is the best cornerback, at least at this position, that I would love to see Seattle go after, and to continue to work on what really made them the Super Bowl champions last year, a seriously strong shutdown defense. That's been their identity since the 2010s. They should continue to work on that identity and not let it go stale. That's why I think they'll go cornerback with the first pick. And that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you liked today's episode, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. This is probably going to be my last episode on this channel. Maybe I'll come back in the future, but I'm not going to have that draft live stream. I just kind of thought I want to take a little bit more of a different path. And so maybe I'll come back to this channel in the future, who knows, but for now, this is a goodbye. This is the last video I'm going to be making for a long time, so thank you guys so much for these 4 years, and I've learned a lot, really working on my own with this podcast, and I'm going to use this work elsewhere. So thank you guys so much for all this. I cannot wait to see what goes on for the next NFL season, and for all the people who kept coming back and watching these videos, thank you guys so much for doing so, and yeah, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and I will see you guys later.